how do you feel about rules? Some of us by nature are inclined to follow most of the rules that we're given. Jaywalking across the streets of life just makes us a little itchy inside. Anyone here a rule follower by nature? Yeah, there's a few. And there are others who revel in breaking rules. We love to feel like we're making our own path in defiance of anyone attempting to limit us. Do we have any rule breakers? Yeah, we have some. Yeah. And then most of us on most days, right, are somewhere in the middle. Our willingness to defy rules depends on a lot of things like who made the rule and what kind of respect we have for that person or institution, or what the likelihood of being discovered is, or how serious the consequences might be, or whether anyone is being hurt by the rule, or whether someone might be hurt if we break the rule. One of the interesting side effects of parenting is getting caught by your children when you break a rule. And then you have to find a way to explain, why was that rule okay to break when so many others are not? Among Jesus's community, there was a rule that folks took seriously: the keeping of the Sabbath day, the observance of a holy day of rest once a week. They observed the strict practice of rest in fulfillment of one of the 10 commandments of Moses. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you will work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to God, and you shall not do any work. You or anyone in your household, or anyone who serves you, or any animals, or any immigrants or outsiders in your community. The version of the commandments that's found in the book of Deuteronomy adds another piece. God says, remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. The ancient Israelites, like many modern-day Jews and Christians, considered the 10 Commandments an essential foundation for an ethical and faithful life. And yet, even the longest version of this commandment is short on details. What constitutes work? And what constitutes rest? And are there any exceptions for special circumstances? In our passage today, Jesus is teaching in a synagogue on the Sabbath, and a woman appears whose body is bent over, who's unable to stand. Jesus calls her over and says, "Woman, you are set free from your ailment." He lays his hand upon her, and she stands up straight and begins praising God. This story prompts several questions for me as someone from a very different time and place. Did this woman desire to be changed? Did she consent to Jesus' touch? Disability advocates teach us that bodies can be whole and complete and holy no matter how they look and however they function. It is up to an individual to discern what kind of medical intervention or assistive technology to choose, if any. I also wonder, how can we grapple with the complexity that God is with us in experiences of illness and suffering, and that God does heal, and yet not everyone is healed in the way that they desire to be? But my questions aren't the questions that the text is interested in. Instead, this story is focused on Jesus' defiance of Sabbath customs. Should healing, which is not immediately life-saving, be permitted? This is still debated today. I feel for the synagogue leader here, who is trying to uphold the value of an important religious practice. And I also wonder if Jesus is healing on the Sabbath day, if he's setting a precedent, then in the future might prevent those who offer healing, maybe the synagogue leader or someone else, from getting their Sabbath rest in the future. People will show up every day of the week expecting to be served. But here's the defense that Jesus gives for going against local custom. Do not each of you on the Sabbath untie your ox or your donkey and lead it to water. And ought not this woman, a part of your community, physically challenged for 18 years, be set free from bondage on the Sabbath day? In other words, Jesus tells us that on the Sabbath, people and animals should get what they need, even if that goes against the letter of the law. In fact, the Sabbath is a particularly good day in which to receive and celebrate the freedom that God gives us, our God who liberated the Israelites from slavery and brought them up out of Egypt. We live in a culture in which no one is limiting us from doing anything on the Sabbath day, whether that's the traditional Jewish Sabbath from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, or the traditional Christian Sabbath on Sunday. In fact, the practice of Sabbath rest on any day is deeply countercultural for us. If we want to follow this commandment, we have to be both determined and creative. Paradoxically, in order to be rule followers, we need to be rule breakers, deciding not to do all kinds of things that folks might expect us to do. However, that's not a reason to let it go, this practice of Sabbath. While it has been very rigid in certain times and places, the principle of Sabbath is essential for a rich and faithful life. We need rest. Real rest, not just distraction or entertainment. We need rest. And so do our households and anyone who offers us services and those who don't follow our religious traditions and all of creation. Rest is necessary. So as we near the end of summer and begin to prepare for the fall, perhaps it is a particularly good time to ask ourselves, what are the practices that give me rest, true rest, deep and holy rest? What are the times and activities that set me free? Or what's something new that I could try? What disciplines might I welcome, rules that I make for myself that would protect my rest for the seasons to come? Please join me in prayer. God, you tell us that we must rest, all of us and all of creation. That nothing we could be doing is so important that we can neglect those practices that invite deep rest, release, acceptance, and peace, a savoring of the sweetness of the present moment, a remembering and relaxing into the freedom of our spirits. Help us to discern the Sabbath practices that will serve us, so we may honor you with our rest. Amen.